Welcome to the Point Out Loud Women Trailblazers podcast, your gateway to the inspiring narratives of women at the forefront of change. Join us as we celebrate the strength and resilience of women leaders. In our Women Trailblazers series, we focus on centering women and all the ways we lead together. Centering women means elevating their voice, listening, and focusing on their constraints and challenges so that we can all take action. Proudly affiliated with the UWSP Women Trailblazers Conference, this podcast is a testament to our commitment to gender equity. I'm Lena Matese, co-founder of the UW Stevens Point Center for Women's Equity, Development, and Leadership. And I am just thrilled to co-host this journey with my friend Serena Vincent, an MBA student embodying the spirit of trailblazing. Together, let's embark on this empowering exploration. Our guest today is Jessie Fritsch, encaustic wax artist, workshop instructor, art fair exhibitor, art event planner, and a 2006 studio art alumna of UW Stevens Point. Jessie created and painted the Trailblazer mural in downtown Stevens Point, Wisconsin through Create Portage County. This mural is part of a partnership with the Women's Suffrage Centennial Commission, the National Endowment of the Arts, Arts Midwest, and the Wisconsin Arts Board that celebrates the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment through murals that incorporate inspirational quotations authored by women from marginalized backgrounds, adding vibrant and meaningful public art that honors these unique locations. You know, I fangirl this woman all the time. Artist, mother, in many ways a social innovator. And so just so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I know. I finally get to meet you in person, the legend herself. Your name is everywhere. So thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have you. So why don't we start by, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your career?
So I am a UWSP alumni. I graduated in 2006. I specialize in encaustic painting. I actually got a research grant when I was a student here. So I do something a little bit nichey, a little bit different. And so I didn't get into graduate school, so my plan was I wanted to be a professor. I wanted to be an art teacher. And I didn't get into graduate school, so I decided to just jump in to just be a professional artist and start exhibiting my work and selling my work. And that is what I've been doing for the past 18 years. And I just came across becoming a muralist really by chance. I was, really involved in the art community here for a really long time, and Create Portage County reached out to me, and it was during the pandemic, so I wasn't doing art festivals and I wasn't exhibiting my work, and so they asked me if I would paint a mural, and I actually said no 3 times because I was like, I'm not a mural artist. This is a little too big for me. The subject matter was a little big for me as well, but I am so grateful and happy that I had the courage and the bravery to just do it, and it has really brought a lot of opportunities my way, like this one.
So how does your work as an artist center women?
Showing women that being an entrepreneur and being an artist is possible. I think growing up, a lot of us are told that being an artist is too hard. It's not a clear career path. And fortunately, I was raised in a family that never discouraged it. They were like, absolutely, go to college for art. And when I wanted to just become an artist after graduating college and trying to figure it out on my own, they were like, absolutely, how can we help you? And so I was very fortunate that I always had support and a cheer team that says, do it, you're great, yes. For me, I want to support other women by showing them how to do it. Like, you can do it. Like, how can I help you? And I'm really involved in the art community here. I run the Stevens Point Festival of the Arts. I'm part of the Hidden Studios Art Tour. I'm part of the Artist Cooperative Gallery Q. And so I'm really involved, and I'm all about working with anyone, but I have a love for women. So I'm here to help and support them.
There is a lot of expressiveness here and a lot of joy, which I find interesting because you talk about getting into your full-time profession of art through a disappointment.
And that was hard, and I didn't know what I was, because I always had that plan. I was going to be an art teacher. I'm going to be an art teacher. So when that didn't work out, it was terrifying. And I always loved those. So instead of going to my college graduation, and I graduated with honors, like I worked really hard in school.
Yeah.
And instead of going to my college graduation, I went to my very first art festival and sold. Well, I attempted to sell my work. I didn't sell a single painting at that art festival, but I fell in love with creating this mini gallery and being able to I'm also a control freak. So I also liked the idea of being able to control like how I set up my art, how people perceived my art, and also who I interacted with. And it was something that I fell in love with, and that's how I primarily make my living, is doing art festivals. But it's because of being involved in art festivals that I was invited to be part of the arts organizations here in this area. And it's because of the art festivals that kind of knew my name and really wanted me to paint that gigantic mural.
Yeah. So what we're talking about, if you haven't taken a picture or a selfie by it or driven by, we're talking about the women Trailblazers.
And that mural project became about was they got grant money to celebrate the 100th year of women's right to vote. So, Create was able to raise money, but there's also this big grant to really kind of celebrate women. And so they wanted Ruth in that spot. And if I wasn't going to paint it, someone else was going to paint it. At first they just wanted Ruth, and I was like, okay. But then when I learned about where the money actually came from, I was like, wait a minute. Like, we're celebrating 100 years of women having the right to vote. Like, there are so many women that helped to get us to where we are at this point. So that's where I decided to on this left side of the mural, there's these little, pebbles, and there's 102 women's names, and I actually didn't add. So each year I'll be adding a woman's name to that to celebrate, how many years women have had the right to vote. So it wasn't just to celebrate Ruth, but it was to celebrate lots of women.
So the Trailblazer mural, if you're in Stevens Point and you haven't seen it, you want to drive by, you want to drive up, you want to park, you want to take a selfie. And how tall do you think it is, Jessie?
It's a 2-story building.
Yes, it's a 2-story building. And how wide? It's the whole side, right?
I should really know those dimensions,
That's okay.
but I don't.
Yeah.
And I just remember I didn't do murals before, and I was scared. I was just intimidated by the whole process, but I also I'm not good at running machinery. So I was I don't know if I'm going to do a lift. I'm not going to use a lift for the mural. I'm just going to use scaffolding, which turned into this huge project in itself. So if you see some of the pictures of when the mural was getting made, it was a scaffolding city, because I wanted the community to help me paint the mural. So it was another reason I just didn't want just a lift, because I'm well, then no one can help me paint this mural. And so that was one of my biggest feats, was learning how to be on the scaffolding and how terrifying it was when I climbed all the way to the top. Yeah. And then I remember my mom was with me, and I climbed all the way to the top, and then I sat, and then I actually started having a panic attack. So I'm this is really high. I can't believe I have to do this. And my mom's suck it up. You're going to have to figure it out. Get down here. Because I was oh my God, I can't get down. I can't get down.
All right. I think we're starting to get a glimpse of how your leadership plays out, right? So you're not afraid to say no.
Well, I think I am now, but for the first half of my career, I said yes to everything.
So you've got better boundaries now.
Yes, I have better boundaries, but saying yes has led me to a lot of really great opportunities, and I only learn from doing. I'm not really a researcher. I don't I just kind of dive right in and learn from the hard way, usually from mistakes and stuff.
Yeah. I bet Serena's feeling a lot of affirmation there. She is also an entrepreneur.
I definitely kind of I hear what you're saying with the saying yes to too much, and kind of balancing your boundaries, for sure. I know I know how that is.
So you get this commission opportunity that's based on a grant.
Yep.
And it centers one woman.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I hear you saying, that's not good enough.
Yes.
So there are then 2 other groups of women that you invite into this project. First, the women who are going to stand on that scaffold with you and do the painting. And second, and if you walk up to the mural, what you'll see is there is a strip on the left-hand side, and there are these wonderful pebbles, and in those pebbles are names of women from our community, women from the world, women from the nation. How did you decide whose name was going to go there?
Oh, that was so tough. And I guess, and again, since it was my mural, it was like there were certain people that like had to be on there. Like Beyonce like had to be on the mural. And there was probably people like, oh my God, why? You know, but I'm like, no, there's just certain women that fuel me.
Yeah.
Like, and she was just one of them. And so moving forward, and I've been, since I had a baby last year, I'm a little lax on but I want each year our community to vote on who's gonna be the next name. You know, each year a new name goes on the wall, and of course I could pick someone, you know, but
What about Mabel this year? Mabel's the new baby.
Okay, so seriously, on the way here, because I was like, God, I didn't paint a name last year, and I need to paint and I actually am gonna put her.
I
love that.
She's the future. I mean, she's everything to me, and she's gonna motivate me more than
That's right.
anyone has motivated me in my entire life.
Here's a question I hear you asking us, though, that you asked through the mural, you asked through your life. Who fuels you? Who are you? Whose energy are you riding on? Whose energy are you bringing to the table?
Gosh, that's like a profound question. I don't know where that comes from. I guess I have always been like a doer. I guess I've always liked to be in charge of my own destiny. I never like to follow the rules in a sense. Like, you know, I never liked being told what to do. And so I guess I had to learn that if I wanted to be my own boss and be in charge of my own life, that I was going to have to take a lot of risks and a lot of chances, and also a lot of burden of being it's great to be your own boss, but there's a ton of negatives about being your own boss, and that, you know, I don't have a retirement plan. When I had the baby, I didn't have maternity leave, you know, there's choices, but my drive and my energy was also, I've always wanted to be in charge of myself. I didn't want someone else to tell me, this is what you need to paint, this is what you need to do. I make those decisions. And again, it goes back to, I've always had a great support system that said that was okay. And they didn't try to be well, maybe you should do this instead, or, you know, maybe you shouldn't do that. They were always we're here to support you. How can we help you?
All right, folks. I want you to settle down and take this in really deeply. If you are stubborn, if you want to have control, right? If you don't want other people telling you what to do, good news. You're likely a woman who likes to make new things, start new stuff.
Yes.
And we are showing up. Serena, Jessie, and I are showing up. We're your virtual support system, right? And we are saying go, go, go. All right, I know this is near and dear to your heart because you are such an entrepreneur. How do we unleash more entrepreneurial courage and risk-taking and space for women like you, Serena?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it also circles back to the collaboration, kind of bringing women together in the same room. Kind of like this, any board, any council, any opportunity, you know, to speak with like-minded women or women leaders, it's very empowering and fueling as leaders to kind of be together in the same room as other leaders, other role models. I think circling back to that hope question, what do you think about women and our role in society? When you think about women and our role in society, what gives you the most hope? Hope for the next generation.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think I am following through on the dreams I've had as a little girl, you know, the things that I dreamt of, I'm absolutely doing it. did it take me a long time? I'm in my 40s, you know, so like it's not something that like just like happened, and I graduated college and I was just like everything was happening like little by little. I got there, and you know, even if it takes 20 years or 40 years, or sometimes you're lucky and it takes 2 years to have hope out there that like you can accomplish your dreams, you know, and I do know that I have been privileged in the fact that I was able to have a college education, which has helped me tremendously to get where I am at. I am very grateful to UWSP, like, and that's why it's always so fun to come back here, because it's like, oh, the memories, and again, to like meet other women and just help keep it going, that drive and that passion to be your own boss, to be an entrepreneur, to try things that you never thought in a million years you would do, like me painting that mural. Never in a million years did I think I would do that.
Now, what was one of the key factors that really led you to say yes? What kind of was that breaking point for you?
Pure desperation, in a sense, because I was a terrible entrepreneur in the sense that I had all my eggs in one basket. So I primarily made my living doing art festivals, which is a big, large event, right? And so, yeah, I had an online store, and I did a little, you know, I started teaching, but when that happened, my entire business stopped. And it was like, wow, well, that was a mistake I made on my part, because I should have had more other opportunities going. So, you know, but you never thought in a million years that like would happen. And so when that mural thing came to me, I'm like, well, I'm not making money. Like, I could sure use a couple grand, which though at the end of it, that mural, like, did I make money off that mural? Absolutely not. It was like my first mural, and I had no idea how much like all of it was going to really cost me in the end. But and again, I'm not someone that is driven by money. Like money doesn't make me feel successful. I mean, it does help to like make life go a little smoother. When I was in 4th grade, it was a little write-up about like, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up, and like, what are you going to do to like get there? You know, and it was like, I want to be an artist, and you know, these are the things that I'm going to do. And it was so crazy to see like my handwriting in 4th grade.
Wow.
And literally like I did all those things, you know, and I'm really proud, and I'm really excited to show my daughter that, like, that you can have these dreams, you know, and even when life changes, like, you know, I wasn't planning to actually have a child, you know, like I was planning to just keep doing all these great artist adventures, you know, and then when I just found out that I was going to have a baby, it kind of was like, well, is this dream going to die, you know, because motherhood, you know, like, can women have it all? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the thing that my biggest thing this year is that phrase. Like, sometimes I really doubt it.
Yeah.
Like, I really do, but I have to push myself out of that, because yes, we can. We might. I just maybe shouldn't be so greedy about all the things I want.
I say be greedy. What do you say? Be greedy. I will bring my mentor to the table, though, and I want to mention my mentor, Betsy Leotis. And we met when I was in my 20s. She's a marvelous force for good. And Betsy taught me about sequencing. She encouraged me to have it all, but she suggested that I didn't have to have it all at once.
Yes.
That I could have different pieces, different times.
Yes. And I'm always that person that I want it all now. And because again, I want to be in control. And so it's just learning to shift that mindset. So.
Timed greediness.
Yeah.
It's like an extended release of greed. I collect over time. I've got so many things swirling in my mind, but I want to come back to entrepreneurial spirit. I want to come back to this determination in you, this desire to make your own way. Can you tell us a little bit about the art classes that you've been teaching?
Yeah, so when I was doing art festivals, I would always have people ask, you know, do you teach encaustic? How did you learn this? And I said, you know, like, I taught myself. I got a research grant from the university, got a book, and I just like learned how to do it on my own. So no one taught me how to do it. But I also know it's a very specialized medium. So I decided, and I've always wanted to be a teacher. And then right before the pandemic, I started teaching, just to dabble in it, like a little bit. And I really loved it. But then, of course, the pandemic came. And I also realized that I didn't want to teach in my own personal private studio because, it's can be an intimate thing. I didn't want to have to shuffle around my studio to make it look picture perfect to have guests come in. Because again, they're fascinated by it. But I'm like, yeah, but that's like, it's like someone in your bedroom, almost like in a sense. It's very personal. Yeah. I actually had another where I went into business with a woman. Actually, I was painting the mural, and there was a woman, and she was like, hey, and I actually was trying to finish the mural. I had my headphones on. I was trying to ignore people because I'm like, I need to get this mural done. I'm on day 34. Like, I need to get this done. And I met this woman, and she was opening a new business, and she asked if I wanted to go into business with this group of women to open this wellness space. And I'm like, this might be a great opportunity for me, because again, I love the idea of working with women. And I also like the idea because she was doing something different, and she had an infectious energy. Yeah. She had this drive, Ashley, right? And so I ended up partnering up with her because I was going to teach workshops in her space and do this mini gallery. And as things kind of progressed, I realized that, again, me being someone that likes to be complete control, not having people tell me what to do, we started clashing a little bit. And, I realized that this investment that I made to be part of this business with her wasn't going to work for me. But while I was kind of feeling discouraged, feeling kind of like a little bit of a failure because I'm like, this business partnership isn't working, is it me? A little bit. Is it her? A little bit. There's a lot of different factors. But I remember in the middle of the night, I was like, because I'm like, how do I get out of this? I don't want to do this anymore. I need to break this contract. I don't want to do this anymore. I found my teaching space I have now. I called my realtor and I was like, I want this space. And I got the space. And so now I have a separate space where I just teach. And that space actually let my studio be part of the Hidden Studios tour, which I'm part of that steering committee, but they wouldn't come into Stevens Point. And my teaching studio is in this little town called Arnett. So it can be part of the Hidden Studios tour. But my business plan for that is I want my teaching studio, Buzz and Art Studios, to be a hub for other artists to teach workshops in that space. There is such a need here in this community for art classes. There really isn't a lot of that. And yes, there's a lot of paint and sip parties and stuff like that, but that's not my style. I am more technical fine art, like the true education of it, not just a good time, the real teaching aspect of it. And so my goal of the space is for it to become a fine art workshop. So I teach workshops once a month, and then when I'm not teaching, other artists can come into that space and teach. And I have 3 different artists that will be teaching classes, hopefully going by this fall. So
tell us how we can support you. How do we get out? How do we get to the studio?
You can check out my Instagram pages. I have a lot of Instagram pages. I have, for those of you that are interested in my beeswax painting, is my Jessie, Fritsch, encaustics page. And then if you're interested in my murals, you go to Trailblazer Mural. Shows my progress, and right now I'm working on a big mural at the Grove, which is the old convent here in town. And actually Point Brewery wants me to paint a mural next, so that's next. And then if you're interested in my teaching, that's Buzz and Art Studios. So you can check out my Instagram pages or shoot me a message.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad you joined us today. And I just want to bring us to close by telling you what I am hearing inside my heart as we're wrapping up today. And that is to trust myself and to trust my little girl dreams. And so listeners and
I love that. Yeah. Oh, it makes me feel mushy now that I have my own little girl, You're like, oh.
Serena, all you women in business, all women on UWSP campus, every woman in the world, trust your little girl dreams. Take those dreams for a walk today. Yeah. And figure out what you want to be stubborn about. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of the Point Out Loud Women Trailblazers podcast. We hope the stories and insights shared today have inspired you to embrace your own leadership journey and uplift the voices of women around you. This episode was produced by Lee Vaughter, campus videographer, Logan Bidon, senior media studies student, and Brittany Kaminsky, marketing and creative services. Discover more about all Point Out Loud podcasts by visiting uwsp.edu/podcast. Join us next time for more captivating conversations and compelling narratives. Until then, keep blazing trails and amplifying the power of women everywhere.